Hi dear friends, this is Bob Hatton, this is The Encourager, and I hope that I got some encouraging words for you today. I've given this title for these devotions during the Passions Week and the Easter time. I've called them Hope in Uncertain Times. You know, we're living in the year 2022 and this Easter time 2022. Wow, we've got some very uncertain times, but at the same time, we have great hope. I'm just so blessed and so impacted by the words that Jesus spoke in John chapter 16 and verse 33. You know what he said? He said, "In the world, you will have trouble." How right is he? But he says, "Be of good cheer, because I have overcome the world." So we got Easter 2022. We're living in a time when, especially in Europe, the war in the Ukraine is at the foremost of our thinking in the news and in the political world as well. There's a war going on between Russia and the Ukraine. And just up till recently, we prided ourselves in Europe as being a kind of progressive civilization that has not had any wars for the last 77 years. Well, that's not quite true, because there was a war in the former Yugoslavia in the year 1990, and that belongs to Europe as well. But we didn't really have any widespread wars that affected a number of countries until the 24th of February. This Europe is united like never before, must say, but war is there with all its terrible accompaniments as far as abominations and war crimes are concerned. And at the same time, we've got an economic war going on. That's not really bothering us too much at the moment, but you know, it could well cause famine in parts of Africa and other parts of the world. Our finance minister, he said that he wanted to be to repay all of Germany's debts that they'd borrowed over the past years. He wanted to be the turbo chancellor of the exchequer. But in actual fact, no finance minister has ever borrowed as much money as our finance minister has, and he's only been in office for about 6 months. Yeah. In other countries, in other places, in other areas of this world, of course, there are wars, there are disasters going on, there are crises. I think about Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is now at a state going through a time of state bankruptcy, where the country as a whole, where the state is bankrupt through misgovernment and corruption and things that have been going on for a number of years. The climate change is continuing to cause so much misery and so much trouble in the world. The pandemic is still with us. It has not ended yet, and I know that in Germany every day there's somewhere between 300 and 400 people are dying because of this virus. And now on a personal level as well, 2022 has been very, very challenging for us as a family. One of our daughters had an accident. A car ran into her when she was travelling on a bicycle, and a car hit her. Fortunately, she was unharmed. But these things, they shake us. One of our granddaughters had to have an operation because of the vaccination that she had caused some glands in her body to swell. Other grandchildren have had operations as well. In our wider family, one of the people belonging to the younger generation died a tragic death. But what upset us no end. I had a car accident a few weeks ago, and of course the Ukrainian war is not just something that is so far away, but it's something that I feel at a personal level. Because, in the 1990s, I went to the Ukraine numbers of times, and we ministered with a ministry there helping to train church workers. And so I especially feel the terrible devastation that is going on in that country at the moment. We know people, we've been to many of these cities that are now being bombarded and being destroyed. But still, I want to say, we have hope in these uncertain times. We have hope in these uncertain times. And that's my theme for Easter 2022. We have hope. And especially in the last few days, I've had this old song in my mind, when I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died. My richest gains I caught but lost, and pour contempt on all my pride. This old song was written by a man called Isaac Watts, who lived from 1674 to 1748. He's been dead for a long time now, but his legacy is still there. He actually wrote 750 songs, and most of them we've never ever heard. But another song that's from him is "Joy to the World, the Lord Has Come." We sing that especially at Christmas. He wrote the words, and George Frederick Handel, he wrote the music to that, and that's a well-known song. "Oh God, our help in ages past." That would be a good theme for this Easter as well. He wrote that song too. And one of the things that especially in England during those days, in the churches, the songs that were sung were mostly just the psalms, and they were sung with this in a Gregoriana chant. This sing-song, and Isaac Watts and some other songwriters that they completely changed the church music, and that was something very, very remarkable. But I want to concentrate on the content of that song, "When I survey the wondrous cross." When we look at the cross, and when we understand what happened at the cross, we understand that we have hope in uncertain times. The Lord of glory was crucified. The Lord of glory was crucified on the cross. And in the book of Galatians, chapter 3 and verse 1, Paul says that Jesus Christ was crucified before your very eyes. And what Paul is saying, that in his proclamation of the gospel, he tried to show them Jesus dying on the cross, being as graphic as he could, trying to make it so realistic how Jesus died on the cross. And the death by crucifixion, that was a terrible Roman punishment. That was the worst punishment that they would give to the very, very worst criminals. And what they did, they would take 3 nails, and they would put 1 nail in each of the wrists and 1 nail through both of the feet. They would hang the crucified person so that he would have a little bit of playroom. And when he was on the cross, he would be hanging on his hands, and he would have terrible pain in the wrists. And so he would try to push himself up with his feet to relieve his hands of the pain, but then he would have terrible pain in his feet, so he dropped down again, and the pain was back in the hands, and so he would be going up and down all the time. And remember how they tortured Jesus. They whipped his back, and his back was just one open sore, and now it's rubbing against this against this raw, this unplaned wood on the cross, and the splinters are going into its wood, and you could just imagine the pain that he's going through. And they would have to lift themselves up to get a bit of air, and at the end all the strength had gone, and the muscles started to be paralyzed because there was no oxygen in the body. And in the end, the way the the crucified ones died was that they suffocated because they couldn't get any more air into their lungs. This didn't just take a few minutes. It didn't even take a few hours, but it would take sometimes days before the crucified one would actually die. That's why Pilate is very surprised when he hears that Jesus had died within 6 hours. But Jesus said, I have power to lay down my life and to take it up again. I'm in complete control here. On the cross, Jesus was on control. And at the end, when he was finished, he shouted out, "It is finished." He didn't say, "I'm finished." He says, "The job has been done. It is finished." And then he says, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." He was in control all the time. Now, I've just told you a little bit about the physical pain that Jesus was going through, but there's also a psychological pain and a spiritual pain that he was feeling as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's have a look at this cross. When I survey the wondrous cross, and the writer of that hymn, it really affected him. It really touched him because he realized the great love of God. And in Romans chapter 8, it says, "If God didn't spare his own son, how much more will he give us everything?" That is so wonderful. And the end, of course, at the end of chapter 8 in Romans, it says, "What can separate us from the love of Christ in Jesus Christ? From the love of God in Jesus Christ." And then he gives us a list of stuff. None of these things can separate us. That's why we've got hope in these uncertain times, because we cannot be separated from the love of God. God is still there, and God's love was given to us on the cross of Christ. In the last verse of that wonderful hymn, the writer says, "The love so amazing, so divine, demands my heart, my soul, my all." We've got to give him everything that we have. God is the God of history. God is the God of human history, and he broke in to human history. And that gives us hope, because even in our day, God is still in control. Despite all the terrible things that are happening, God is still in control and will continue to break in to our history. Well, God bless you. I hope you have a good day. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. You're Bob Hatton, your encourager.